Hey guys, so a couple days ago I put out a video of a 25 Brackenhide, me doing big damage overall and stuff, and so you've had a chance to watch that, I would assume. If you haven't, don't worry, we're going to go through it a little bit together here. I wanted to give you guys kind of an insight into my thought process and how I'm playing Feral at the moment, because I know a lot of you come in for like guides and stuff like that. So this is basically a guide, but it's going to be done live. So that's the aim of this. I don't think I'm going to play through the whole video, but just until I feel a point of comfortability with we've got enough stuff, you know, kind of explained and stuff. So I'll start out this video now. So this is 25 Brackenhide, it's Fortified week. So first thing is, tank's going to pull in a big pack here, and I know that, and they're going to bloodlust. So I don't want to really attack yet. I'm kind of positioning in a way where I'm not going to get hit by anything. Next, I can start with my... I start with a shred instead of a rake, because if you rake things, then it's going to stun them. So I try not to do that, because I think that the tank, if he's trying to group things up, and then I rake something, it makes it awkward in grouping. So yes, I gain a bit of damage from the rake, but the group as a whole can lose damage because the tank's in a bit of like a, oh, that mob's over there, we need it over here, and then sometimes the mob can start casting because you've stunned it somewhere, and be really disorienting for the group. So I like to actually start with shreds a lot of the time if a tank is going to be grouping things up. But then, you know, everything's all compiled together, and then it's about getting my bleeds and everything together. So I'll kind of go into it fresh as we can, but going into this situation here, right? So I'm tracking all my combo points up at the top left. I track my blood talents in my head, but also in the top right if I really need a reference point. And then I'm kind of somewhat tracking sudden ambush, but in this many mobs in AoE, I don't bother tracking sudden ambush because there's no real point, in my opinion. It's just like going to be lost to the wind, right? Like you focus on, you need to just perform an action every second as much as you possibly can. So I'm not really thinking too much about sudden ambush because I think it's kind of pointless. You can see in the middle of the screen, there's like my face keeps appearing with the cat ears on. That's whenever I'm getting an Apex proc. So that's a weak aura that I use because the default Blizzard UI, which is actually going to be changing in 10.1.5, they are updating it a bit. So I think Apex is going to, like, they're making things shine and pop a bit more when you proc things. So Apex might be fixed. I don't know. I'm probably going to continue using this weak aura because I kind of like it. Actually, it's kind of nice to have. It's very just visible and there for you. And when I die, I get to stare at it for a little bit and know that I messed up. But we can actually look at this death a little bit. So we can look at what happens here. So I'm fighting. I'm not really in any danger here. I do have a dot on me. And we are going to start getting some bursting stacks happening here. But I do have the dot on me. So that's something that like I'm aware of. But I have a health pot. I have survival instincts and stuff like that. But I'm at about 75% health here because of this dot. I then get a mob that immediately, it just shoots me. And I die. That's one of those where I'm not really gonna, like, stress and be like, oh, I needed to just play better. It's like, that's kind of just one of those where it's a bit of a shitty death. There's a lot of moments in these dungeons where there's just random mob damage going on random targets, which is the scariest type of damage. Because whenever damage is going on random players, you know, tank always has a defensive running. As a player, you don't have a defensive always running, like as a DPS or a healer. So any random damage can be very, very deadly, and that's just what happened here. So I just chalked that one off like it's not too big a deal. I'm not gonna beat myself up over that. It is what it is. But now, okay, so I'm setting up, so I got 5 combo points, and I've got my blood talents pre-generated, so I can go into this pool, I can start with a rake on this, immediately Primal Wrath, then I want to start spreading some rakes, then I can do another Primal Wrath, then I can thrash, and I want to try and get a bite now. So that's going to be where the bite comes in. The reason what I try and do is I try and get double Primal Wrath as quickly as possible. The reason for that is the pandemic window is partly. So it basically means I have a healthier Primal Wrath. So if you Primal Wrath once, it will go on the targets, it will last 9 seconds. If you then Primal Wrath a second time, whilst there is still at least 3 to 4 seconds left on that Primal Wrath that you put on every mob, then it'll actually add the remaining time, the remaining duration, that remaining 3 and a bit seconds, onto the new Primal Wrath that you apply that lasts for 9 seconds. So you end up with an 11-12 second dot on every single target from your rips with Primal Wrath. So what I'm trying to do there is double Primal Wrath quickly, so I have a healthy one, then I can build up more combo points, and then I can bite. The bite is going to enable my Sabertooth, which is the talent which increases the damage of your active rips by 5% per combo point, I believe it is. So you're getting a big boost, and that's on rips that are already applied. So you can apply your rips, and then you can bite, and then you'll get that damage on the mobs that already have it. So that's what I'm trying to do in AoE. That's consistently what you'll see me doing is, you know, I already have 5 combo points, so I'll go in, Rake, Primal Wrath. You can thrash immediately. That's also really good. If everything's already stacked up, you can thrash. But sometimes I start rake spreading if it's only a few mobs. If it's like 4 to 6 mobs, I'll just rake spread everything, so it's just on. Because rake is really the, you know, big damage section of our damage. So it's doing like 19% of our overall. So I'm really trying to get the rake spreads quickly. But if it's large AoE, then I'll oftentimes thrash as my like next move. So I'll go in, rake, Primal Wrath, thrash. Then you can even like send a Brutal Slash if you want to. Primal Wrath again. If you have Incon available, of course, when you send that initial Primal Wrath, you can immediately Incon, so you can Rake, Incon, Primal Wrath, and then you can like Thrash Brutal, and that's fine. I don't mind using a Thrash in AoE during my Berserk. I don't mind doing that. That's fine. It's, you know, it's chill with me. Now in this dungeon, I am also getting PI'd, so that's something to consider. My haste is going to be really good. I mean, my stats in general right now, I'm in this dungeon right now, at this point, I have 43% crit, 16% haste, 73% mastery. I believe my stats have even gone up a little bit since then, and I think I've even gained a little bit more mastery, so my stats seem quite good, and this is with the old tier set, so I'm actually lower item level, lower stat weightings, but my overall is still pretty good in terms of stats. Like, everything's kind of where I'd want it to be. Obviously, my crit is being bumped up by the fact I'm using Corrupting Rage Potion, or Flask, which I think is really quite good. Mastery is higher prio than crit in Mythic Plus, the reason being, your crit is basically your main your combo point generator, like, facilitator. Every time you crit, you get 2 combo points. If you don't crit at all, you have to do 5 combo point generators per finisher. If you do crit, you can do it in 3. Or if you're using finishers at 4 combo points, which some people do, then you can even do 2 generators instead of 5 or 4. So it is saving you some time there, and it saves you energy. So your damage is all based on damage per energy spent and damage per combo point. So these are the things that you're trying to consider. I mean, you're probably not going to do the mental arithmetic during a key, but these are things that you can analyze in terms of how strong a certain ability may be, a generator might be at a certain time, right? So if things are critting, which they are going to be in AoE, you have a very high crit chance in AoE, because everything has a unique crit opportunity, and then every time something does crit, you only need a combo point generator to crit on 1 mob, and you'll get 2 combo points. So crit loses a bit of value in AoE, mastery gains a lot of value, haste is really good for us right now, and yeah, so I just use the crit flask to just level up my crit a little bit. But I'm also using the cape. So, you know what, give me a sec, I'll rewind here a little bit. But I'm also using the cape. The reason I'm using the cape is because I don't feel super comfortable. I'm just talking Spore Cloak. I don't feel super comfortable right now with these dungeons yet. I'm not fully there, but when I do get there, when I do feel more comfortable, maybe I'll switch over to the Toxic Boots. I might do that. But for now, I'm happy with the cape, because, like I said, there's so much random RNG damage, like earlier in this key, where I got randomly shot, and from 75% health, I got shot and killed. Like, if the Spore Cloak can help prevent some of those moments, that I'll gain a lot of damage in the key overall. And you don't really want to die when you're pugging, because if you die in a pug, people don't really analyze why you died. They kind of just look at it and go, you died, that means you're bad. It's kind of a mental thing with pugs as well. Yeah, my damage might be slightly lower, but people won't really realize that I'm losing like 5% damage. They'll just go, oh, that guy didn't die. Oh, his damage seems fine. Okay. So you gotta play the game. You gotta play the game, you know? Think about it. Right, so we're gonna go into this. I've got my Incon. I've got 5 combo points, Blood Talons pre-generated. That's how you want to end every bit of combat. You want to have your 5 combo points. You want to have your Blood Talons ready to go. So we should be focusing Gash Tooth here, I believe. I think that's what people are generally doing here. But I'm going to go into combat. I want to try and get rakes up on these targets as quickly as possible. I also want to get Primal Wraths flowing. Then I can be looking to send bites on my primary target here. So you will see me trying to focus Gash Tooth, a particular mob that I do want to put a lot of damage into. That's where I'm going to be sinking all my Apex bites, and where I'm going to be trying to predominantly focus, like, you know, if I'm shredding at any point, that's where I'd be focusing my shreds. If I'm out of Brutal Slashes, then I can look to shred that main target. You can also just, like, yeah, you know what, that's fine. So that's what I'm looking to do here. Obviously generating my blood talons every time. The way that I generate my blood talons in this kind of scenario is rake, thrash, brutal slash. That's the best way. That's the best way. I don't really want to shred too much if I can, if there's alternatives, if I can refresh rakes, if I can refresh thrash or brutal slash, that's going to be kind of the best way of doing things. Shredding on 3 targets isn't as good because I'm only hitting 1 target at a time, which, you know, per generator spent, the amount of combo points I'm going to generate, like I'm relying on my shred critting on that 1 target to get more combo points compared to a thrash on 3 targets. I'm going to get more combo points, which means I get more overall finishes. You know, I'm proccing my Sabertooth when I'm biting. I'm getting my Primal Wrath, my high bleed up time. I'm also getting my Tear Open Wound. Tear Open Wound is going to be the talent where whenever you have Rip active on a mob and you use Primal Wrath, it's going to do a chunk of that damage immediately from the bleed. So that's really good. So I want to be Primal Wrath and I want to be biting when I can. You definitely want to try and squeeze in bites here as much as you possibly can. You normally see during my incon window is times where I can definitely be biting a lot, but outside of your incon window, your combo point generation is lower, and so you're going to be struggling to get as many bites in a given window. So a lot of people do ask me about these kinds of specific moments in combat. It's like, well, during my incon, I'm sending out a lot of bites. This is a question I get a lot, is when should I be biting, when should I be Primal Wrathing in AoE? It's like, well, if you're an incon, you can bite quite a decent amount, or you get your Apex procs, like, you can bite quite a decent amount. But generally speaking, I'm trying to Primal Wrath as much as I possibly can. The reason I'm trying to Primal Wrath as much as I possibly can is, A, I want to, like, Rip is doing the most amount of damage of anything from our toolkit. When you consider Rip damage, Primal Wrath initial hit, Tear Open Wound damage, all 3 things. I don't think I might be missing something as well on top of that, but when you consider all of those aspects, Primal Wrath is doing the most amount of our damage, followed by Rake. So Rake spreading is very important. I do try and Rake in this kind of scenario here. I am trying to Rake, but I'm predominantly, during my incon window, I want to be getting out as many Brutal Slashes as possible, because you got to think about the frenzied frenzy band like effect, where your combo point generators are going to leave a bleed on every target. So if I can Brutal Slash everything during that incon window, that's really efficient, because I can Rake spread, but it takes time, and so I'm getting fewer like bleeds going on everything. So if I can already have Rake going, and then I can be incon in, and then I can Brutal Slash, like I'm getting my Rake tick damage, I'm getting Brutal Slashes hitting everything, doing damage with the bleed there, so that's all really, really good. But I am trying to Primal Wrath a lot in these scenarios, and yes, I'm Apex biting, but I'm not like, I'm still generating my blood talons. I'm not just letting everything else fall to the wayside, and I'm definitely not wanting my Rip to fall off completely. Spore Cloak just saved me there, by the way. I had a little infected lasher, I pulled a little bit of aggro, one of the lashes starts hitting me, my Spore Cloak saves me. I don't really want to be proccing my Spore Cloak in that kind of scenario, but it saves me. A really nice thing that you can do there is if you have your incon rolling and you pull aggro, you can re-stealth, which will drop aggro. You can also Shadow Meld. I use Shadow Meld, it saves me at least 3 to 4 times per dungeon. Just where you rip aggro. You ever go into combat as Feral and you Rake and then you immediately Primal Wrath and then things all start looking at you angry? That's a Shadow Meld. That's a re-stealth from incon. Like, really good to be able to do that. I normally am not like that type of person that's like, guys, you have to play the racial. But Shadow Meld, you know, you have to play this race because it's the best. But Shadow Meld is just so pivotal. But we can kind of analyze a little bit of this AoE a little bit here, because we actually go quite big. I believe we end up sending a Lust as well. But I mean, you can see like my overall on this is my overall in this pack is quite good. So we can kind of analyze this a little bit. What I might even do is, hold on, let me pause this. What I might even do is I might just drop the speed down just a little bit. Let's just play it at like half speed. We'll kind of analyze this a little bit. So I'm looking at these mobs. Again, you can see me kind of targeting them and idling on them, posturing a little bit. I don't want to rake them, because if I rake them, then they're going to stun here, and then Tank's going to lose aggro, and then they're going to go hit the healer, and the healer's going to die, or something like that, right? So I'm just posturing. I'm looking at the whole situation. I'm going, where do I think the Tank has aggro? Where do I think I can throw in a few hits and not pull too much aggro? This guy, this Elder, no aggro on him. So I'd immediately pull aggro off that. So I got to be careful of this guy. I'm looking at him. These guys, I can maybe do some damage to, but the Tank is so far away that if I start damaging them, I'm going to pull aggro before the Tank gets more aggro. So I got to be really careful here. At the same time, I do want to start getting some damage rolling. I'm aware that we don't have a rogue, we don't have a hunter in the group. So We go in here, I stealth here, I get a rake off, I wait for everything to be stacked up, I feel comfortable, now I can DPS, right? And I immediately hit with the Primal Wrath. You can see that I immediately hit with the Primal Wrath there, and then my damage starts to really immediately climb because I've already got an instant Primal Wrath. Rather than getting into combat, idling, then building 5 combo points, and then beginning damage. Yes, I've idled, but I already have damage in the tank. I'm already ready to go as soon as everything's stacked up. So now I'm literally just going through the motions of Rake, Thrash, Brutal Slash. Getting up to 5 combo points as quickly as possible, then I'm sending a Primal Wrath. When I get my Apex procs, I'm sending those as well. I'm looking for things that I can kick. So you can see me jostling between different mobs. It's because I'm looking at my rake times. And the way I look at my rake times is I literally am looking here on health bars like this. Like this is 9 seconds, 8 seconds, 9 seconds. This guy doesn't have one. That's why I'm targeting him. I'm ready to rake him. It's probably going to be my next low pull or one of. Soon. I'm at 0.5 speed. Okay, I didn't get the rake off on him. That's fine. He's almost dead. It's fine. But that's what I'm aiming to do. As things start dying as well, you've got to consider the fact that, you know, you got to think about the time till death. You got to think about switching your rotation. As there are fewer mobs, you got to start thinking like, right, do I want to save some Brutal Slashes here? Because we've got mobs that are about to die. We're going to go into a new bit of combat. Do I want to save Brutal Slashes so I've got them for when we stack up more mobs? You can see here we go into this. And I'm going to try and Primal Wrath as soon as possible. There it is. Looking for the kick on the Elder. Can send the bite there. Generate the Blood Talons off of 3 different globals. We had Thrash, Brutal Slash, and Rake. And in between, I'm fitting in finishes. So I'm trying to do like a Rake, Bite, Thrash, Brutal Slash, Primal Wrath, Bite, Rake, Brutal Slash, Bite, Thrash, Primal Wrath, Bite. Like, if you can do it like that, that's really good. You don't necessarily need to sit there and wait, like, generate Blood Talons, then use a finisher, then generate Blood Talons, then use a finisher. Like, that's not necessarily how you want to do it. You want to do both at the same time, so you can weave things in. But something you gotta be careful of, and with the new Berserk, it's something I'm careful of. It's like, the new combo point overcapping is kind of messing with my brain a little bit, and it's like, I'm still getting used to it, but I'm trying to generate my Blood Talons and use finishers at the same time. And yeah, that's how you're trying to basically do it, is like use a generator, use a finisher, double generator into a finisher. If you generator, finisher, generator, finisher, generator, you might still be able to get your Blood Talons proc, but you have to have a high energy, and you have to like be able to be instantly pressing buttons, so you already want to know your next target ready to go. But yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of like how I'm kind of trying to address things I'm kind of thinking of in these scenarios. I don't know if this has been kind of helpful, but I don't want the video to go on too long. But let me know if this has been helpful. I'll try and do some like more things like this and greater depth tomorrow. So Friday, I'm gonna be doing a stream on Twitch where I'll be doing some coaching. I'll be VOD reviewing your guys' keys that you submit to me, and we'll go into a little bit more detail in terms of rotations and this and that, and I'll look at like going into combat and how I'm approaching things. But this is just a quick video of like my mental, what I'm thinking of. I'll do another follow-up video where I try and look at like, right, I'm gonna press this button, then this button, then this button, and then address why and talk about why. But that's the basics. That's kind of what I'm doing here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.